every year we go to Davos, Switzerland. That's this town that the World Economic Forum takes over.
Yeah. How would you describe the World Economic Forum for everybody who's watching and listening?
It sounds super boring, doesn't it? World Economic Forum. That sounds like economists studying the world.
Yeah.
Sounds good.
Yeah.
It's not. These are the masters of the universe. I call them the VVIPs.
Yeah.
These are prime ministers, presidents, royalty, pop culture stars.
Yeah, and the question is why? I asked some Davos attendants who were very well positioned, like who the hell Klaus Schwab is. It's like, how in the world did this cartoon dictator of the world character manage to convene all these VVIPs, as you call them? And Klaus Schwab is a convener fundamentally, and he's certainly not elected. He owns it. He's an owner. Yeah, right.
I call it a crypto government. Here's what I mean.
Yeah, definitely.
You have members of government, Chrystia Freeland, Mark Carney. These are the two leading contenders for
Hear that? That's Chrystia Freeland and Mark Carney, for those of you who are thinking about voting for them. See, a vote for them is definitely a vote for the WEF, and there'll be a lot more about that on this channel soon.
They're both board members of the World Economic Forum. Justin Trudeau was a global young leader.
Yeah.
And Klaus Schwab bragged, and I'm going to say it in his German accent, we have penetrated the cabinet of Canada. And
you sexual metaphor intended.
You've got to do it in that accent because he really is like a Bond supervillain.
That's for sure. It's such a blackly comical reality. Yeah.
But I don't have a problem with rich people meeting to talk.
Yeah, well, they're going to.
But what do they do there? Here's why I call it a crypto government. Number one, a real government has an independent press.
Yeah.
Just a scrutinized thing. The World Economic Forum, there's lots of journalists, but they pay to participate. So they'll never be skeptical or accountability journalists. We go, but we are not allowed in. We're kept outside the security perimeter because we ask unvetted questions.
So that's where you're always lurking out there on the street, like an ambush squad.
That's right, and I'll tell you in a minute some of our favorite catches.
Yeah.
Number two, in a real government, there's an opposition, and sometimes they rotate people through. That's a form of a check and balance. In a real government, there's a lobbyist registry. Who was meeting with
Technically, it's a fascist organization. And fascism means to bind together, right? And the fascists were big into the idea that, and this is kind of what defines fascism, that media, corporations, government should all be working together as a unit to push forward whatever the interest happens to be, whatever the agenda happens to be. And the WEF is a place where exactly that happens, is that the elites of all the different power hierarchies meet and, conspire morally to improve the planet, despite the fact that they have no democratic standing. And as you said, no opposition and no journalistic coverage, and that it's a pay-to-play arrangement that's made Schwab and his cronies exceptionally rich. And that's really demented and twisted the world in unbelievably pathological ways. Net zero, that's a WF initiative. ESG, right? That stakeholder capitalism, that's all pouring out of the WEF. That's the sort of thing, by the way, that Carney supports in spades. He's an architect of those policies and a distributor of them all around the world. Carney believes that 85% of the world's fossil fuels have to remain in the ground, and that somehow magically, Alberta in particular is going to have even better jobs under this new green economy that he can't define. It's going to apparently run on hydrogen of all bloody things, all the pathological idiocies you can possibly imagine. So he's like Trudeau on steroids. And so, that's the WEF, man, in a nutshell. Every stupid idea you can possibly imagine the last 15 years is being promoted by the Davos crowd, all to virtue signal because they're guilty about being, guilty about being rapacious billionaires, I suppose. They could work a little on the rapaciousness and a little less on the virtue signaling. So anyways, okay, so you're in the WEF and you're out there trying to, what? What are you doing?
Well, we're outside the moat. I mean, it's a very high security place. It's hard to get there. They buy up every hotel room in town. So we stay one town over and take the train.
Right, so it's isolated to protect.
That's right. And so we had to fly to Zurich, take 3 trains up. And we're not allowed in. So we're just on the cold streets.
Where do you stay?
We stay one town over called Klosters. We in an Airbnb typically. And they quintuple the prices that week.
Of course.
That week, the local airport, the private jet airport, they say that they make their whole year's money in that one week.
Yeah, yeah.
And if you go and watch the
And think
private
of all
jets,
the lovely carbon that's being produced,
private
feeding all the
jets,
plants.
they come in, and it's such a small airport that they drop off the VVIPs, but then the planes have to go fly to another airport to park. And then they come and fly, like, it's an extra flight just to park the plane. I've never seen anything more carbon intensive. And then there's helicopters.
Probably got slightly greener around Davos in
That's
consequence.
right, because of all the CO2.
Yeah.
You know, they're against fuel and they're against food, even though
No. They're against fuel and food for peasants.
And that's so they're in their private jets, but you have to take public transit. I was in the streets of Davos 2 weeks ago, and I see a guy handing out energy bars. Like, there's a lot of kiosks and people giving away grab bags and goodies, and it's cold, so they give away hot chocolate and tea. So one guy's giving away energy bars, and people are flocking to it. But I notice on some box he has, it says insect protein.
Oh, yeah.
So I said, who are you? What are you? And he actually talked to me for 15 minutes. His company's called Pumbaa. And if you know your Disney movies, there's a character that eats insects called Pumbaa.
Right.
But on this candy bar, it does not say the word insect anywhere. In the ingredients, in tiny print, it uses the Latin genus and species for the mealworm.
Oh, yeah.
It's ground up. It's like Adolphinus diaporinus or something.
Sounds delicious.
I don't think 1 in 1,000 people, 1 in 100,000 people knows what that is. And he was giving them away, and he was saying, there's insect protein in it, but no one heard him. I was there with my cameraman. I said, did you hear him? He said there's insect protein in it. And some people were repulsed by it. Others didn't care. They are doing creepy and weird things.
Bugs are the right thing to do creepy things with.
If you want to eat bugs, I'm not going to say don't. But don't sell it or give it away and hide it. There's a lot of strange things going on in the World Economic Forum. And I feel like
You need a T-shirt that says that. A lot of strange things going on in the World Economic Forum. Rebel News.
Rebel News were sort of scruffy. And
yeah.
I mean, I say the drawbridge comes down and these princes walk out onto the town, and we're there. These grubby peasants asking them questions.
Out of the gutter.
2 years ago, I think it was, we scrummed Albert Bourla, the CEO of Pfizer. This year, we scrummed Larry Fink, the CEO of BlackRock.
They're fun.
And we had a lot of questions. We asked 70 questions. I later count. We walked and talked with Larry Fink for 9 minutes, and we asked 70 questions. He answered 0. In fact, his bodyguard sort of pushed us a bit, and then Fink took out his cell phone, put it right in our face, click. I said, you intimidating me? I'll tell you my name. I'm going to make, it was so weird.
Well, you haven't been on social media much, Ezra.
But, and Albert Bourla, we were asking real questions. Yeah, we were annoying. I'll grant you that.
Yeah.
But like my first question to Larry Fink is, have you spoken to the president yet? Are you moving away from ESG?
Yeah.
And are you going to come to his way of thinking like Zuckerberg did? I really am curious, because Larry Fink is a real...
Yeah, because Vanguard has moved away from ESG to some...
So it was a real question.
Yeah.
And then I asked a bunch of questions. I said, are you putting your ideology above shareholder returns? Like if you're making investments,
the definition of ESG.
Yeah, and that's a real question. And maybe I was fairly polite. I said, Mr. Fink, etc. Why would he walk with us for 9 minutes but not deign to give us an answer? And Albert Bourla, the same thing. We said, when did you know that the vaccine didn't actually block transmission? You said it was 100% effective, then 90, 80, 70. So when did you know? I asked him real questions, and my colleague Avi Yamini did too. The fact that we were on the street and not vetted disgusted these men. Both of them had probably done 10 interviews that day, but the interviews were with trusted partners who had actually paid to attend the World Economic Forum. The idea that they would be in an unscripted moment and an answer to anyone was beneath them. That contempt, if you ask me what is the World Economic Forum, that's what it is. It's these masters of the universe who like to hang out with other masters of the universe and who have contempt to talk about humanity, but they actually hate people. That's and I've been going for 4 years, and you never know what you're going to get there.
Yeah, I'm very afraid that that's exactly the sort of attitude that characterizes Mr. Carney. And I'm more convinced about that after reading his book quite carefully, Values. It's like, yeah, he likes humanity, but, food, shelter, clothing, and heat or air conditioning for you or your car. Do you get to have a car under Mark Carney?
Yeah.
The globalist utopian types, they'd like to see a 95% reduction in private car ownership. Right?
This is the place that came out with the think piece. You'll own nothing and you'll be happy.
Yeah. Or else you'll bloody well be happy, or at least you won't get to complain. Yeah. You'll own nothing and you won't get to complain.
But let me say one thing. I've just spent 10 minutes criticizing the World Economic Forum, but I'll say this, and it's probably a compliment of Switzerland more than the World Economic Forum. There are hundreds of very well-armed police and military in Davos with big firearms.
Yeah.
It feels extremely safe, by the way. They have never once tried to stop us from scrumming these VVIPs. As long as you don't touch them, not that I would ever touch anyone.
Yeah.
John Kerry, the former Secretary of State and climate ambassador, he walks around all the time, and he actually talks to us while we walk. It's very interesting. And like all these VVIPs, Larry Fink had two sort of tough guys with him that pushed us a bit. But as long as you don't touch the VVIP, you can scrum them. The cops don't care. In fact, I think the cops get a kick out of it.
You'd think the cops in Canada would get a kick out of it too, really?
Well,
because
they've been politicized by their mayors and police commissions and all the way down. The police in Canada are becoming more political every day. In Switzerland, they would never do what they did to me or to Menzies or to Alex Lavoie, never do that houseboat raid. They actually are gentle police with a light touch there.
Yeah, well, it's a terrible thing to think of that harder-handed, politicized police presence being part and parcel of Canada. That's really not a good thing.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I think you guys, love you or hate you, or maybe a bit of both. You guys have been canaries in the coal mine for Canada for a long time. And also not just Canada, right? Because how much of your viewership is international?
I'd say 60% is Canadian, and then US and the UK after that, and then Australia. But
right, so 40% international. Is that primarily the US or
the US?
Yeah.
And then
it's such a big population center.
That's right. And then the UK, especially when we covered Tommy, because the domestic media in the UK, they're uniformly against him, which is strange because
it is strange.
So many ordinary Brits really follow Tommy.